from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdés, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdés.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdés, Valdés with an S, at Rich Valdés on all of the social media. Welcome to the Monday night edition of the program. We're live and national, and I am blessed to be on this microphone with you. And our phone number, if you want to join me, give me a call, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdés. Going to be doing a lot of calls tonight because I really want to get your take on a few things. I'm going to give you my take on something. I feel like I woke up in bizarro land today. I get on the microphone every day, and I stand up for liberty. I stand up for conservatism. I stand up for America. And today, those things are under attack, right? You usually hear the term democracy is under attack from the left. But today, you're going to hear it from me. What would you say if I told you that there were a group of people, maybe they're wealthy, maybe they are influential, maybe they're powerful, maybe they're elected officials, maybe they own media companies, maybe they work within powerful media companies. And these people were calling on a Republican to just simply get out of a race to guarantee that a Democrat would win. Forget about the people voting. Forget about anything. Forget about you, right? We the people don't matter. This is about people with influence through politics, people with influence through wealth, people with influence through their position in the media. And they have decided that in order for their guy to win, there should be no opposition in an election. You should leave, sir. Imagine that. You would say, who are these leftists? Who are these crazy people? Well, I lament today to tell you that some of them are my friends, fellow conservatives. Heartbreaking moment for me, got to tell you. Not for any particular election, but for a movement, for a country, for a belief system, an ideology, for a constitution that I believe we all love, right? A country we all love. I understand that there's horse trading in politics. But I'll tell you this, whether I'm on the mic or not, right? I could never in good conscience, ever, say, you know, I'm going to ask the person that actually legitimately won an election to get out of an election so that the Democrat could win. Because I believe in the people. I believe in liberty. I believe that people have the opportunity to vote for whatever they choose. And we have a right to campaign. And we have a right to go out there and share our ideas. Sadly, that's not the case. There are a bunch of Republicans, many of which don't live in New York City or haven't lived in New York City, but some do, that are calling on Curtis Sliwa to leave the race. Now, this has been the case all along. Over the weekend, I saw a video of a guy I've met several times, a guy named David Rem, calling Curtis all sorts of names, calling him a rat, an egotistical rat, saying that the city was going to suffer because of Curtis's ego. And all I could think to myself was, where was David Rem when it was time to collect petition signatures, right? The 30,000 people that Curtis Sliwa got to sign his petition so that he could become a candidate for mayor. Where were these people when Curtis ran in 2021 against 4 other people and won the Republican primary? I'll tell you where they were. They were in his corner. Politics is filled with fair weather friends, and I get it, right? Political expediency is part and parcel of the business we're in. However, when this expediency attacks the very fiber of what we do, right? What we believe in, what we are as a people, as a constitutional republic, why would we ever vote if it's okay today to say, hey, you're about to have a debate tomorrow night. The last debate Yeah, you might have had a couple of moments where you didn't hear the guy, but you made the most sense. You were the hands-down winner of the debate. Curtis Sliwa won those debates. He answered the questions. He gave his policy positions. If you read the comments just about on any post that you could find out there, the people were saying Curtis makes the most sense. He makes the most sense. The Quinnipiac people say that he has the most enthusiasm when it comes to voters. So what is it that the people that are calling for Curtis, what are they afraid of? Are they afraid of Curtis? No. They have bought into the demagoguery that somehow this Ugandan-born communist sympathizer with terrorist links is somehow so bad, and that is pretty bad, that we're willing to forget who we are. We're willing to look in the mirror and no longer see conservatives. We're looking to look in the mirror and say, all right, today I'm going to be like those guys. Today I'm going to say, forget about elections. Let's pick this guy. Let's install this guy. Kamala Harris didn't win a primary, and she tried to become president. The DNC put her in. Andrew Cuomo lost in a primary to Zoran Mamdani. He lost by 13 points. And now, not just Democrats, Republicans are circling around this Johnny-come-lately who oversaw the, in my opinion, the murder of 15,000 senior citizens during COVID. A man who left office in utter disgrace. As Curtis Sliwa says, slapping fannies and killing grannies. He lost. So a loser, right? Two-time loser, right? We can call him, right? He lost as governor. He's not governor anymore. Why? Because he lost. He had to leave. And now we want to put him in as mayor because somehow he's the lesser of two evils when there's literally a guy who's a fantastic candidate, Curtis Sliwa, who actually earned everything he's gotten? No way. I couldn't sleep at night asking anybody to make a decision like that, and neither should you. So I call on all my Republican friends, please reevaluate your position. You can do what you want, but come on. Think about the implications. Think about the next election where some third-party spoiler jumps in and says, hey, look, by the way, we're just going to call on this guy to... No. So my call is really on Curtis Sliwa. Curtis Sliwa, you must stay in this race for the sake of protecting the democracy that we use within our constitutional republic. If we, the people, are to ever matter, if we, the people, are going to resist the tyranny of a majority or the tyranny of a minority of people with wealth, a minority of people in government, a minority of people in the media. And that's what we saw in 2016. It was those same people, the billionaires, the left within the media. They were out to get Donald Trump. They still are. And they had Trump losing by double digits to Hillary Clinton. Fake, phony, and fraud. All BS. Now, I want to take a minute and a half or so. I want you to listen to what Curtis Sliwa said tonight when asked by Rob Schmidt on Newsmax, if he was going to drop out of this race. Check this out.
Curtis Sliwa joins us now, and it's good to have you back on the show, sir. I want to start by saying I'm a fan of yours. I like your politics. I like you. But I also have to live in this damn city. And as much as I do respect your politics, it does feel like right now in a three-way race that we're just walking right into a tornado 2 weeks away.
Well, Rob, it's the Democrats who created that. They made Zoran Mamdani. Andrew Cuomo lost to him decisively in the primary. And now you're thinking that Andrew Cuomo can be the savior. I'm sorry. I am the Republican candidate. I had 30,000 people who signed up to qualify me to be the second major party candidate. And I am the law and order candidate, of which Andrew Cuomo is the architect.
But what?
And Zoran Mamdani is the apprentice to no cash bail, raise the age, turn criminals loose from Rikers Island. So again, I am the legitimate Republican Party candidate. Major party candidates don't drop out for independents who are losers to begin with.
I understand that, but what do you say then to this polling that indicates that if you're the one that drops out because you're in third place right now, that a lot of it does move to Cuomo? At least it's a chance. Right now, I as much as I like you, I don't think this is not a conservative city. I like you, but most people in this city don't like you, and I just don't want to just walk right into the Mamdani administration and tear this place apart and have all the crime.
Rob, let's get real here. The most unlikable person in this race, according to the polls that you want to believe in, by the way, that were wrong during the primary, that had Andrew Cuomo up by 40 percentage points over Zoran Mandami, who beat him decisively.
Okay.
His unfavorability is Andrew Cuomo. People don't like him. He killed the people, 15,000 he never apologized for. He's responsible for the crime crisis. He can't reinvent himself. We'll have another debate tomorrow night, and we will discuss the issues. And I whooped him and Zoran in the first debate. You saw that, Rob.
That is Curtis Sliwa. Don't go anywhere, because Curtis Sliwa needs to stay in this race. Again, for the sake of principle, for the sake of we the people. Curtis Sliwa is not somebody that said, hey, I'm going to run for mayor. And if some Democrat loser comes around running as an independent after he gets beat in the primary, well, then maybe, guess what? Zoran Mamdani was in that primary. Nobody put $1 in to beat him then. Nobody was. Why didn't anybody call on Zoran? Why didn't they run people against him then? Too little, too late. People are going to try and hang this on Curtis and say it's his fault. There's nothing here that's his fault other than he ran in 2021 to make New York City better. He's running again in 2025 to make New York City better. And he's going to be in a debate tomorrow and wipe the floor with both of these guys on his way to, God willing, becoming the next mayor of New York City. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdés.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdés.
Good evening. I'm Jessica Moore in for Christine Johnson. We begin at 6 with allegations of horrifying acts behind closed doors of a Manhattan penthouse. Retired New York financier Howard Rubin and his personal assistant are accused of spending $1 million to recruit women to engage in sex acts that sometimes turned violent. Alice Gaynor has more from Brooklyn Federal Court, where Rubin just faced a judge and pleaded not guilty.
A 10-count indictment against 70-year-old retired financier Howard Rubin and his personal assistant, 45-year-old Jennifer Powers, alleges from 2009 to 2019, Rubin recruited dozens of women to engage in sex acts for money, allegedly torturing them beyond consent, preying on women who were desperate, suffered from addiction, and had previously been sexually abused. Powers is accused of facilitating the encounters, arranging travel, and securing non-disclosure agreements. According to the indictment, during many encounters, Rubin brutalized women's bodies, causing them to fear for their safety and or resulting in significant pain or injury.
So that, again, is a report from Alice Gaynor, CBS News, and you just heard there this now another indictment in the sex trafficking case of Howard Rubin, right, the real estate mogul in New York City. And, again, this guy's got his own Ghislaine Maxwell, right? She's a married mother of 3, 45 years old, and she was living large because of her involvement in setting up the sex trafficking. It's hard to think that she's probably going to say she didn't know, or she was afraid, or she was this, or she was under threat, right? Like they all do. Everybody's got an excuse when they get caught. I want to bring in one of the pros on this, because Dan Nash is a former state trooper and investigator in human trafficking, sex trafficking. He's the founder of the Human Trafficking Training Center, and he's with us now. Dan Nash, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You bet. So give me your initial take on this Howard Rubin case, because not only was he, dealing with these women that were being trafficked, and now we found out he has an accomplice, but he was also, this wasn't just your average slave labor or, even prostitution. This was beating them and harming them. It's pretty crazy, this dungeon stuff they're talking about.
Yeah, from what we know so far, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot more that'll come out, but from what we know so far, it's pretty horrific. Some of the beatings that these girls take are really, it was really grotesque. Now, do most trafficking victims that are being sex trafficked take horrible beatings, and are they threatened? 100%. But this guy sounds like, if all this is true, I mean, what's alleged, it sounds like he was even going further than most.
Yeah, really crazy stuff. Now, in your time investigating this as a law enforcement officer, you were with the Missouri State Police, and with your work now with the Human Trafficking Training Center, do you see that this is the norm? I mean, are a lot of people trafficking people for their illicit pleasures of harming them and whatnot? Or is it more like, I think, what I'm accustomed to believe, which is that, they're just doing it for the sake of prostitution and not that it's any better, but it seems like that's more the typical course, that and, of course, the just labor.
Yeah, so this is a little bit of an unusual case. Most traffickers are not worried about sexual gratification. I mean, those are folks that we refer to as predators, not traffickers, completely different criminals, completely different motivations. Sound like this guy is a little bit of both, which is actually somewhat rare. Most traffickers are simply worried about making money, and they will force people into prostitution. They will force people into labor. They'll force people into other criminal activities, whether that's fraud or forgeries or robberies or whatever they're doing, simply for money. The fact that this guy is doing that, but is also involved in his own sexual gratification is a bit unusual.
Yeah, it seems that way to me, and I'm glad it's unusual. I was hoping you wouldn't turn around and say, nope, actually we found it. 30% of cases are like this, because that would be, again, eye-opening. And again, oftentimes we don't know what we don't know, which is why I ask. Now, what do you think happens in a case like this? Is it difficult to put a case like this together? Does this woman flip on him and become their star witness? Are we going to see like a redo of the Epstein case?
It's a guess at this point, but from what little we do know from the charging documents and things, it sounds like the government's got a pretty good case. Really, in trafficking, you only need to prove three things, what we refer to as the AMP model. You need to show an action, which is like recruitment, transport, harboring. You need to show a means, which is force, fraud, and coercion. Not all three, but just one. Or if they're a juvenile, you don't even need to show that. And then lastly, we need to show that there's money, profit, or something taking place. From the charging documents that we have seen so far, and again, there's a lot of stuff that we're not seeing yet, but from the charging documents so far, it looks like they have all that.
All right. Folks, we're on with Dan Nash. He is a former law enforcement investigator with the Missouri State Police, and he's founder of the Human Trafficking Training Center. And when we come back, I want to get your take on A, some of the craziest things you've seen and kind of open our eyes a little bit, and B, tell us exactly what you're training people to do. Obviously, you're not training them to be traffickers, you're training them to catch and stop traffickers. So I want to learn all about that when we return with our guest, Dan Nash, and me. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdés.
Rich Valdés, who, again, will do a fine job, and I know you'll enjoy listening to him.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdés.
All right, amigos, welcome back. It's Rich Valdés keeping you company live and national. 833-482-5337-833-4-Valdés. We're going to get to your calls and more straight ahead on a bunch of things, not the least of which is the New York City mayor's race. Is there truly an attack on democracy? We're going to get your thoughts on that, as well as all of this stuff that we're talking about now with trafficking. Right now, there's a big bust that just went on a couple of days ago, targeting Chinese organized crime networks coming out of Austin, Texas. And that's just, one of the latest big trafficking busts. And I want to get into that and really have a kind of cursory conversation about human trafficking and sex trafficking in our country, because it really is a huge problem. And when I was a kid, they just called it missing children. Right now, we know that it's a lot bigger than that. We know why they're missing. But there's not just children, there was teen runaways. They were all runaways. People were upset. They weren't running away. They were getting trafficked too, right? So there's a lot of misnomers that I think still exist today, and I'm hoping our guest can help us make sense out of everything. Our guest, again, is Dan Nash. He's the head of the Human Trafficking Training Center, and he's a former state trooper and investigator looking into such crimes. Dan Nash, welcome back.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
You bet. Now, let me ask you, have you seen what's going on with this trafficking case coming out of Austin with these Chinese organized crime?
I did. In fact, I was part of that. I helped put that traffic together, or put that case together, or that operation, I should say, together. It was called Coast to Coast. It's been the third time that we have done that. And we had about 17 different states, over 150 police agencies that were involved in that across America.
Well, and for everybody's listening, just give us a little bit of a taste of how it went down, because there was obviously a lot of coordination with law enforcement, and a lot of people were saved.
Yeah, so part of what we do at the Human Trafficking Training Center is we provide training to law enforcement. Most people think that law enforcement is trained in trafficking, but that's not actually true. As a Missouri State Trooper, I never received any training in trafficking. I just kind of figured it out on my own. And most people think that if we do get training, it's like, or don't get training, it's like the small PDs or the small sheriff's departments or something. But that's actually not true. It's across the board. Even big giant agencies like the FBI receive zero human trafficking training. So law enforcement just does not know this stuff. So what we do is we help train law enforcement. We train them how to identify and investigate human trafficking. We teach them how to do these operations like that happened last Thursday on the 16th on Coast to Coast. And then we help kind of coordinate those. Of course, it's local and state and federal law enforcement that's going out and doing these things. And last Thursday, we found 77 trafficking victims and arrested, I think it was 39 traffickers over the course of one day across America.
Now, what are these people, the trafficking victims? Do they all fit the same mold, or does it vary?
It varies. There's basically 5 major groups that do trafficking across America. So we were concentrating on 2 of those groups, which is Chinese organized crime, which is the illicit massage business industry, which is the fastest growing of all trafficking in America. It's about $5 billion a year here in the United States. This funnels back to China, and it's 60,000 victims of trafficking across America. That was part of our focus, and then the other focus was just American victims that are being trafficked here in America.
Now, the victims, again, are these, so let's say these Chinese organized crime, these are women that are I'm going to guess they're not American. Are they smuggled into the country to do this work at, forced labor, or do they recruit them here? How does that work?
So basically they're recruited in China, and they're people that are vulnerable, people that maybe are in poverty, people that are from broken homes or have been abused or something like that, people that have vulnerabilities. They recruit them in China, and then they basically sell them the American dream. They say, hey, you're going to go to America. We can give you this job. You're going to make tons of money. Yes, you're going to go in debt, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 up front, but don't worry, you'll be able to pay that debt back. And then in no time, and then you'll be able to send money back to your family. And then they get over here and, they're not working in a grocery store or a restaurant or dry cleaners. They're basically being trafficked at an illicit massage business. being forced to do sex acts all day.
What happens to these people? Are they just, do they ever let them go? Are they like indentured servants? They do their time, they pay it back, and then they're free? Or do they get sent home? Do they get rid of them? Like, what's the I guess the lifespan of someone that takes a bite at this and comes to America for such purpose?
So the life is pretty horrible, pretty horrific. They're not paid, so they get like no money. They're being charged to work in these places. They're being charged for food. They're charged for towels. They're charged for condoms. They're charged for all this different stuff. So they never, ever get out of this debt. I have seen trafficking victims in their 50s and 60s in some of these illicit massage businesses, and they're still there working. And they probably started in their early mid-20s, and they're still there 30 years later.
So they never get out.
It's pretty rare. Most of the time when they get out, it's because of death or something like that. But it's unless law enforcement intervenes, it's pretty hard for them to get out.
Wow. I didn't know that either. So trying to get a bigger picture of this stuff when it comes to the victims. Is it typically women? Is it typically women from other countries that are being trafficked? What are some of the blind spots when it comes to understanding who's being trafficked?
So about 92 to 93% are females. And of those, about 75% of all trafficking is just Americans. So do we have a big Chinese problem with trafficking in America? Yes, we do. But that's not a majority of all trafficking. It's the fastest growing of trafficking in America. It's about a 32% increase in the last 3 years, 46 in 8 years, but it's not the largest. The largest group that is being trafficked in America today is adult females. It's not children, it's adult females.
From America.
From America.
So this is what was, when I was a kid, these are the runaways.
So runaways, missing kids from the foster care system, yes, they have about a 1 in 5 chance to be trafficked if you're a missing juvenile, if you're a runaway, something like that. So about 1 in 5 are going to be trafficked.
And is this similar, massage parlors, or are they ending up in prostitution? And is that like a life sentence as well, or how does that work?
The American girls, it's a little bit different. It's a little bit easier for law enforcement to get them out of being trafficked. They don't have near as long as life expectancy typically as the Chinese girls, because they suicide, they overdose, they're victims of homicide. So typically 35-ish is typically about their life expectancy if we don't intervene and get them out of being trafficked.
So what are some of the things that you do in order to help law enforcement, conduct these operations and help people understand this better?
So we teach law enforcement, number one, how to identify trafficking victims, everything from trafficking types of tattoos to vulnerabilities, to PTSD, to being trauma bonded, to all the other, scars, marks, burns, all the other things that we look for in trafficking victims. And then we teach them how to actually communicate with the trafficking victim. Most people think that if you just go and ask them, hey, are you being trafficked? Or if you go and you find them, they're going to come running and jump in your arms and say, oh my God, thank you so much for helping me. But that is not what happens at all. Typically, they are really uncooperative. They're really belligerent because they have so much PTSD and they've been so traumatized and they're so trauma bonded, what we used to refer to as Stockholm syndrome, that typically they deny. Typically, some of them don't even recognize that they're a trafficking victim, and others are too fearful and too trauma bonded to basically talk to you about it. So we've developed a specialized way to be able to do that. And when trained properly, we will go from a traditional law enforcement interview approach, which gives you about a 6% success rate, to the way that we teach it, law enforcement has about a 60% success rate. So it's a significant game changer if they have the proper training.
Well, that's good news. Now, I've read about this 4-corner strategy that you implement. Tell us about it.
So that's the specific strategy that we use to to go after the illicit massage business industry. And it's really the only strategy that has been successful, not only in America, but in Australia and parts of Canada, and other places as well, because they have the same problems that we do.
Same thing with Chinese massage parlors?
They do. South Africa, Australia, Canada, the UK, Sweden, they have the same problems with the Chinese organized crime that we do. So they're looking for, avenues to fight it as well. And it's been really successful here in the United States. And we're able to help tons of victims. We're able to arrest all the key parties and really make some successful routes in trying to get rid of this Chinese organized crime trafficking problem that we have.
Wow, lots to digest there. Dan, tell us how people can learn more about your organization and how they could follow you and the work you're doing.
So you can go to our website, which is Human Trafficking Training Center.com, altogether, Human Trafficking Training Center.com. And that's probably the easiest way to find us, to reach out to us, to email us, to call us, whatever, and to also follow what we do with our trainings across America and these different operations that we do called Coast to Coast.
Outstanding. Dan Nash, founder of the Human Trafficking Training Center. I want to thank you for being here. I appreciate everything that you're doing. Godspeed to you and continued success in your work.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it very much. Be safe.
You bet. Godspeed. And amigos, we come back. Your thoughts, your calls, your reactions on everything we're talking about and so much more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdés. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
The New York Post agrees. The editorial board saying today, swallow the bitter pill, get out, there is no way that you can win, to Curtis Sliwa. Rudy Giuliani disagrees, though, telling Curtis Sliwa, the Republican, to stay in the race. Here's Sliwa's response to those like Bill Ackman saying he needs to get out.
Ackman is a jerk. Has he been right yet? Here's a guy who goes up to Newport, Rhode Island and thinks he's a professional tennis player. Come on, Ackman, stay in your lane. If somehow I lose, and we know Andrew Cuomo's lost, he's already tossed into town. Oh, it's because of you, Curtis. Really? It's because of the Democrats.
That is Curtis Sliwa on Newsmax earlier today, doubling down, saying he's not leaving the race. And, of course, why would he? Why would Curtis Sliwa have gone and laid a foundation in 2021, come back to run in 2025, gaining endorsements from people like Sean Hannity, from Mark Levin, from Roger Stone, from Elise Stefanik, from Rudy Giuliani, all of them saying they want him to be mayor of the city of New York, from so many people across the city, to then say, oh, you know what, because some guy named Ackman or, a billionaire say you got to go, that you should go. Come on. That's crazy, right? Meanwhile, you've got Democrat council people on board with Curtis Sliwa. You've got Republican council people on board with Curtis Sliwa. I'm not saying that's a slam dunk for Curtis Sliwa, but I'm saying he didn't do anything wrong. It's not like they caught him in a text message saying he should, he wants to kill his enemy's kids. It's not as if he's saying something that's out of tune here. Curtis hasn't done anything wrong, yet they want to punish him and reward the guy who already lost by 13 points, the guy who was governor and didn't run for governor again. Why? Well, because he had to stop being governor because he was being sued left and right. He cost the state a fortune, I think $60 million in lawsuit payouts because of sexual harassment. He's the guy that signed the no cash bail law into law. Andrew Cuomo has been a disaster for New York. Absolute disaster. He was a disaster on the debate stage. And I just don't see how he's somehow the lesser of any evils. We already know what he's doing. People say, oh, it's the devil you know. Where's the difference? Where is the difference? I don't see it. I don't see any difference in policy. Andrew Cuomo is pro-sanctuary city. Zoran Mamdani, pro-sanctuary city. Andrew Cuomo is a tax raiser. So is Zoran Mamdani. Let's see. What else they got? Defunding the police. Both the same. Ending cash bail. Yep, there you go, too. And closing down prisons because it's an outdated idea. Zoran says it's an outdated idea, and Cuomo says, I close down more prisons than any other politician, and I'm just getting started. That's an actual quote from him. So you tell me, where's the difference between these two? Except for one smiles incessantly and talks about affordability at every opportunity, and the other one just beats the other one up. Right, Cuomo. And doesn't know where the camera is when he's on stage. It is a clown show. And the person they allowed to talk the least was the winner, Curtis Sliwa. Anyway, I want to go to your calls. 833-4-VALDEZ. Let's go to Tom calling us from Columbia, South Carolina, WQXL. Tom, go right ahead.
Mr. Valdez, I got a list of benefits for electing Sliwa or consequences for Mamdani. It's about a minute or so.
Is this like a poem or a song?
Yeah, it's like a poem again.
All right, let's hear it.
All right, let me know if it makes some sense, okay?
Sure.
It is time to ensure Sliwa's success or a crime to endure Mamdani's mess. At stake is fate to make the city thrive or forsake it to hate, then take a biddy dive. It's a choice of poise or the voice of noise. A candidate dedicated to endearing his city or a candidate predicated on appearing pretty, protecting us from the Looney Tunes or projecting on us the Clooney Goons. Postulate a mission for the nation or propagate misinformation. Best attract some wholesome alum or get attacked by some loathsome scum bum. Invested to fix what's broke or infested with a mix of woke. Someone who survived big loss from a shooting, so not fooling, or one who thrives. I'm the boy's boss, rootin', tootin', Putin. And finally, make the city prosper or take pity when lost her. It is do or die, for night is nigh. Vote Sliwa. See ya.
Tom, like always, I appreciate it. A very good job. Very, very clever. Amigos, we're coming right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdés.
All right, amigos, welcome back. Rich Valdés, live and national, 833-482-5337. And check this out. Again, just going back, the big story we've been talking about, most of us have been talking about, is Zoran Mamdani being, flashing his pearly whites in a picture with Siraj Wahaj. All right, this guy is an unindicted, World Trade Center unindicted co-conspirator, the 93 bombing, not the 9/11 bombing. And he was happy as ever to take this picture. And, Zoran had this to say.
This same imam met with Mayor Bloomberg, met with Mayor de Blasio, campaigned alongside Eric Adams. And the only time it became an issue of national attention was when I met with him. And that's because of the fact of my faith and because I'm on the precipice of winning this election.
It's mainly because of the things you say. Like when you put a red mask on your face and you said, we're going to make everybody like my people, right? You said that, not me. So anyway, we're going to talk more about that in the days to come. And if this is the end of the road for you, hasta la próxima. Take care, good night, and God bless you, America. Everybody else, stick around. I'm Rich Valdés, coming right back.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdés, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdés.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdés, Valdés with an S, at Rich Valdés on all of the social media. Welcome to the Monday night edition of the program. We're live and national. It's my honor, privilege, and blessing to be here with you on this microphone. And here's the phone number if you want to join the show. Give me a call, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDES. And on this Monday night, looking at the news of the day, big story today, Zohran Mamdani. Big picture of him taking a selfie with a unindicted co-conspirator of the 1993 World Trade Center attack. How about that? Right now, this was a big deal, and I think people have suspicions about Zohran Mamdani, but I think they're not realizing a lot about him. Yes, it's New York. Yes, it's a blue city. But this is the same blue city that was plagued by crime, and David Dinkins, who also was a Democrat Socialist of America candidate, right? He was very supportive of the DSA. And I can tell you this, New Yorkers are tired. I know many of you don't know Brooklyn, New York. I was born in Brooklyn, New York. But I can tell you Brownsville is not an area where you see many Republicans. Right? And I walked around Brownsville, Brooklyn, with Curtis Sliwa about a month ago. At the closing of his, at that time, I think his 6th or 7th campaign office throughout the city, where supporters go and they pick up lawn signs and whatnot. To my knowledge, I don't know that the other candidates have this many, right? Because this is not like typical campaigns where the local Republican office or the local Democrat office will put the signs for their candidate and say, hey, this is, Trump country, for example, or, whomever is their local candidate. No, these are empty locations that are solely for the purpose of the Sliwa campaign. Why? Because they're in areas where people would run Republicans out of town. And that's the gravitas that Sliwa has. Curtis Sliwa walks around, he and I both. It was raining. We were in my car. We got out to get some stuff from the Brooklyn headquarters. And no lie, in 10 minutes that we were there, multiple people came up. The place was already closed. We were standing in the rain, and these people didn't care. They wanted their photo. They wanted to shake his hand. Many of them actually knew him, and they're like, hey, man, good to see you again. We're going to bring this thing home. The level of support just was really astounding to me, right? Coming from all black people in Brownsville, Brooklyn. Now, most people think of New York and they think, oh my gosh, it's this big Democrat bastion that they're not going to have a way to elect a Republican. Not realizing that Curtis Sliwa has only been a Republican for about 5 minutes, right? It's not like he was a Democrat before that. He was the chairman of the Reform Party. He's always been a reformer, pro-reform, pushing candidates that were reform. He had never run for office except for in 2021 as mayor. And he's a populist. And he brings a very pro-people message. So I think this part gets underestimated by people, and I don't know why. Many of my colleagues, my friends on the right side of the aisle are putting so much faith in polls. The same polls that had Donald Trump losing to Hillary Clinton, the same polls that had Andrew Cuomo beating Zohran Mamdani by 20 or 30 points, 40 points. Wow. Interesting how Zohran beat him by 13. So I don't know if this is like a little PSA from Rich Valdés. Stop believing the polls. I'll tell you this. I used to say I never believe polls. And you know why? Because I never get polled. Nobody's ever asked me what I think. So how can I believe a poll that I've never participated in? Since I said that, and I said that probably 6 or 7 years ago, I've been invited to a few more polls since then. And I always fill out the poll. Whatever poll I'm sent, I make sure I fill it out because I want to be counted in the poll. I want to be that person that, that towards the right outcome. I don't know how much of a difference it makes. These things are typically skewed. We've had Robert Cahaley on here. We've had Mark Mitchell. We've had John McLaughlin, some of the best pollsters in the country, and they've all explained how these polls are designed to give you a particular outcome. They're very flawed. One of the most flawed ones I've seen is the one I saw today. But I'll get into that a little later. I want to go back to this 9/11 imam, World Trade Center imam and Mamdani, because this has been particularly alarming for people, and it should be, right? Now, Zoran has tried to claim distance from his photo with Siraj Waraj, the imam who is, a supporter, right? He's a flagrant supporter, co-conspirator and terrorist apologist. And this is interesting, right? It's interesting because during the campaign for mayor in the primaries, nobody was talking about those things. They were just talking about he being Democrat socialist, this and that. But there's no emphasis put on what matters, right? And I think what matters really is, where's your heart at? Who are you as a person? Who do you associate with? And if you're associating with people that cheer on the demise of New York City, you really got to ask a question about that. You really do. Anyway, he tried to bail out of it today. He says, no, hold on. If you're going to criticize me, criticize the rest of them. Listen to this.
The same imam met with Mayor Bloomberg, met with Mayor de Blasio, campaigned alongside Eric Adams. And the only time it became an issue of national attention was when I met with him. And that's because of the fact of my faith and because I'm on the precipice of winning this election.
Now, that's Mamdani. But his buddies, they also chimed in, right? By his buddy, I mean Andrew Cuomo. And then, of course, his real opponent, Curtis Sliwa. Listen to this.
He just doesn't know what it means to be a real New Yorker. You know what, Zoran? Wipe that smile off your face.
Certainly, Zoran Mamdani needs to be condemned for embracing a supporter of terrorism. Well, how about let's condemn Eric Adams, the sitting mayor, and Bloomberg, and de Blasio, who should have followed my lead. I took on Imam Siraj Wahaj. I got sued for $5 million. I went to court. It cost me, but I won the case.
That's Curtis Sliwa, who has been calling out Siraj Wahaj for a very long time. Again, yet another example of Curtis Sliwa leading on these issues. Don't believe the hype, folks. Don't be cowed into doing what they did with Kamala Harris and trying to hand this election to Andrew Cuomo. But speaking of terrorist sympathizers and terrorists overall, I want to talk about what's going on in Gaza, because Hamas doesn't seem to have a handle on things. They're telling Trump one thing, but the rank and file are out there murdering people. So they got a taste of the IDF today, and hopefully that gets everybody in line and pushes this towards peace. I think the agreement is still viable, but we're going to get some analysis on this from somebody who understands this really well. She's senior fellow at the Independent Women's Forum, but she was also the Deputy Special Envoy to combat anti-Semitism at the U.S. State Department during the first Trump administration. Ellie Cohanim will join us momentarily. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdés.
By the way, your ratings are up. Congratulations.
Thank you,
somebody. It's always nice to check. I like to see, even if they're friends, I like to see how are they doing. Are people listening, right?
That's
but
right.
You're doing great.
America at Night with Rich Valdés.
You just alluded to the violence in the Middle East. What steps is the administration taking to maintain the ceasefire?
Well, a lot of steps, and right now it's in the hands of others. You know, we have 59 countries that agreed to the deal. We have a peace in the Middle East for the first time ever. We made a deal with Hamas that, you know, they're going to be very good, they're going to behave, they're going to be nice, and if they're not, we're going to go and we're going to eradicate them if we have to. They'll be eradicated. And they know that. So they went in, and I don't believe it was the leadership, but they had some rebellion in there among themselves, and they killed some people, you know, a lot of people. But this is a violent group. You know, you probably noticed over the last 100 years, this is a very violent group of people. And they got very rambunctious, and they did things that they shouldn't be doing. And if they keep doing it, then we're going to go in and straighten it out, and it'll happen very quickly and pretty violently, unfortunately.
That's President Trump in the White House today saying we'll eradicate Hamas if we have to. And, of course, this coming on the heels of a big meeting recently with Ambassador Witkoff, the special envoy, and Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law, who's been intimately involved in these talks towards peace, putting together the president's 20-point plan along with Secretary Rubio. And this is, the latest development with 2 IDF soldiers being killed over the weekend. And now we have President Trump making, a very strong statement about getting it together, getting the train back on the tracks towards peace. I want to bring in our guest because she knows exactly what's going on. Ellie Cohanim, former Deputy Special Envoy to combat anti-Semitism at the U.S. State Department during the first Trump administration and senior fellow at the Independent Women's Forum. Ellie Cohanim, welcome back.
Hi, Rich. It's great to be with you.
Likewise. So talk to me about this, because I think, a lot of people are confused. They're wondering what happens now if they violate the ceasefire. Do we go ahead and start bombing? Obviously, the IDF did some of that. Is this just kind of applying pressure to get them back in line? Is this the leadership of Hamas not, on the same page as the people, the boots on the ground, or is there more to it?
Rich, I think the first thing to remember is that Hamas is a U.S. designated foreign terrorist organization. Mm-hmm. So they're bad guys, and they're terrorists, and they're going to act like terrorists. And so I think that we have a bumpy road ahead of us. There's going to be non-compliance by Hamas along the way. But I like to just step back for a minute and think about how we got to where we are right now, which is kind of breathtaking. The fact that President Trump was able to negotiate this peace deal, which first of all released all 20 of the living Israeli hostages in one shot. That was just incredible. No one expected that to be possible. It was almost like he negotiated the impossible by that release. And by the way, I happened to be in Israel the night before that release, and it was just an incredible experience to be there. And then you think about this coalition that the president referred to, where he brought together Arab countries, Muslim countries, Israel, and with the blessing of Europe, an incredible coalition. So all of that is just, a feat of diplomacy that I don't think any other president would have been able to accomplish what President Trump has accomplished. And so, here we are. And so, like I said, we're going to have incidents of noncompliance, but I think this coalition that the president has brought together gives us a pathway where, on the one hand, you can see diplomacy through countries in the coalition like Qatar, Turkey, and Egypt, who can pressure Hamas to comply. And then on the other hand, if that doesn't work, then you've always got Israel's military capability. And those are the 2 levers of power.
Folks, we're on with Ellie Cohanim, senior fellow at the Independent Women's Forum, former Deputy Special Envoy to combat anti-Semitism. And I think you're right that not enough, kudos goes into how this whole thing came. It's, yes, the 20-point plan worked, but I think the bigger point that you made is that so many people bought into this plan, right? All of the Arab neighbors, and there really isn't anywhere for them to turn. Iran has been, for the most part, kind of marginalized, I think, since we bombed them, and I'm sure they're working on recouping, all right? Because like you mentioned, bad guys are going to do what bad guys do. It's what they do, kind of one-trick pony. But right now, as the time is as such where Hamas didn't really have too many ways to go. So it makes sense. What do you think the next step in this process looks like?
Well, so, you referred to it, Rich. There's the 20-point plan that the president and his team have put together. The president has put a lot of his own political capital in what he calls this peace board that he's created, and he's the chairman of the peace board. And so the plan is there. It calls for the disarming of Hamas. It calls for the demilitarization of Hamas. It also allows for additional food aid to go into Gaza. Eventually, you're talking about a new governing body, and that's where, again, that coalition seems to come into play, where the expectation is that some of those Arab and Muslim countries are going to participate. And, I happen to have been invited to Azerbaijan, which is a Shiite Muslim country that borders Iran. Rich, just about a week ago, I was there, and they're an incredible country. President Trump just negotiated a peace deal there between Azerbaijan and Armenia. If your listeners know, they were fighting for this area called Nagorno-Karabakh, and President Trump brought peace to that area. And so the Azerbaijanis are one of the countries that apparently reports are that they're willing to send their troops into Gaza to be part of some sort of an international peacekeeping force in Gaza. So that's kind of where things are going to be headed towards. It's a huge lift. And so, again, I think that everyone has to be realistic in terms of expecting that there will be bumps along the road. But, Rich, I want to answer your question like this. Where are we heading to? The way I think the vision for Gaza that President Trump and his administration have put together is what I like to call it is like Dubai. If any of your listeners know Dubai in the United Arab Emirates, right? It's this beautiful coastal enclave, and Gaza, let's remember, is on the Mediterranean Sea, so hard for people to imagine, but also a potentially beautiful coastal enclave. Dubai is a huge tourist hub in the Middle East. There's just this like stunning contemporary architecture. There's restaurants and nightclubs. I think that's the vision for Gaza.
Sounds like a beautiful future if we can get over the bumps in the road. Ellie Cohanim, thank you for being with us, former Deputy Special Envoy for Antisemitism. Godspeed to you, and I hope to speak with you again soon.
Yes, happy to join you again. Thanks, Rich.
You bet, Ellie. Amigos, we continue straight ahead with your thoughts, calls, and opinions. Don't go anywhere.
Yes, sir. I just want to tell you that I love your show. I listen every day. I think you're a true professional. I think you're one of the best.
America at Night with Rich Valdés.
After the guest leaves every night and we're doing open phones, kind of at the heartbeat of America, and you sit there in this radio studio and suddenly you hear voices. Mobile, Dallas, New York, Miami. And there's kind of a conglomeration of America all in one room.
Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5790. 833-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
A conglomeration of America all in one room, and that's what we have right here. Welcome back, everybody. Rich Valdés here, keeping you company with our friends in Idaho, New York, Indiana, Florida, and more that are lining up to get on for Open Phone America. So make sure you get your calls in 833-482-5337. And there's a bunch of things going on that I just want to make mention of. An appeals court ruled today that President Trump can send the National Guard troops into Portland. What a surprise, right? You know, they always say no because they want to slow them down. This is what Democrats do. They use lawfare to stop you at every turn. And then he sues, and as soon as they can hear those cases, he always ends up winning. So kudos to El Presidente for getting it done. And I'm sorry, Mr. Good, what's that? Oh, that's all right. Don't worry. We'll do it later. And the Democrats continue to block spending bill, the opening of the government now for the 11th time. Yep. This might be one of the longest shutdowns ever if they keep it up, and they're just going to hand it right over to Trump to start slashing away at these positions. I can't wait. I think they're banking on this, thinking it's going to be a slam dunk for them. They don't realize Trump isn't coming back. He's playing for keeps now. This is it. He can do whatever he needs to do. And I think they're failing to realize that. Anyway, let's see. Big deal today struck with President Trump and the Prime Minister of Australia on rare earth minerals. This was a big deal because this is yet another move to marginalize China, who'd been encroaching in this area. And little by little, Trump is, wherever China's been doing their business, we're taking it back, peeling it back. So a great strategy by the president. I think that's exactly the way to go. They have started the demolition for the construction of the new ballroom at the White House that's not paid for by tax dollars. Kudos to El Trompito for that one as well. And that construction started today, I think. Let's see. Oh, here's a good one. Secretary Hegseth announced another U.S. strike on a boat off of the coast of Venezuela. President Trump now putting Venezuela's neighbor Colombia on notice as well, saying, look, if you guys are selling drugs, we're going to come for you. And we'll keep blowing up your boats. And President Trump isn't playing any games ever since designating certain elements within Venezuela as foreign terrorist organizations, and them being a narco state with their president, Nicolás Maduro, being indicted by the federal government. And there's a little, I think it's a $50 million or something like that bounty on this guy. So things are heating up with El Trompito. And I want to get to your calls because we've done a lot of talking over the evening. And let's see, what do we got here? We got Nikki calling us from Dyer, Indiana on WLS. Go right ahead, sir.
Good evening, Rich. I'm your second-time caller, but you really hit my wheelhouse tonight. I've been a responsible, profitable gentleman's club owner for 25 years now. And one thing I wanted to say, a lot of people don't know, about 10 years ago, Congress passed this thing, a trafficking thing. So anytime you hire a girl now, there's certain forms you have to fill out and certain parameters. I mean, us responsible owners were way ahead of that. You know what? I mean, you could always tell when a girl was being forced into it because, by nature, girls are feisty, the entertainers are feisty, gregarious, and they would be really subservient, way too polite, wouldn't look up and stuff. But being in that business 25 years, my eyes were open to, things that weren't my cup of tea. And one was this bondage world. And Rich, let me tell you something. That is a dangerous, dangerous world.
Now, let me ask you, what would you do, right, when you said, hey, look, this girl, she's here. And like you said, she's not a very gregarious entertainer that's, wanting to be a stripper of her own volition, but maybe is being forced to be one. What action did you take?
Rich, even before it was law, we would say thank you, but no thank you. A while ago, Rich, gang members came up with this theory, which was correct. Hey, if I sell a bag of cocaine for $25, once it's gone, my profit's gone. But if I can control a human being, my profit is never ending. So that aspect, you have to be really up on alert. But as far as the bondage thing, Rich, I've been to a few parties that would, and I'm a guy that's been around, that would just curled my hair. That scene is so scary.
Wow. Well, Nikki, thanks for your call. I mean, I would ask what somebody's parties were like, but I'm afraid either one of us is going to get in trouble. But I get your point that that there are people that like to go.
I could give you just a brief thing with with keeping it clean if you care to hear.
Yeah, go right ahead. Because I'm curious.
Okay,
I get what you're saying. You own a strip bar, but you do it responsibly, and I understand that part. And I think there are people that like to go to the strip bar. Then there's people that want to, torture a woman, tie her up, gag her, and then kill her. That's kind of crazy. Not kind of. It's like totally crazy. Nikki.
Yes. Well, I'm going to give you a quick example at some of these lockdown bondage parties. They'll get some vulnerable person like this, like all these people do that's in need, and they'll mummify them. And the only thing that they'll leave exposed is their mouth and genitalia. And that person will be for hours at that party subject to whatever people want to do to them because they're mummified. And this is just a fact, Rich. I've seen it.
Wow. And this is the type of stuff that these guys like Rubin are into. And it really just makes you wonder, like, is the rich, the Hollywood elite, these crazy people, I guess they have so much money, they run out of things to do, and they get into the craziest things. Like, whatever happened to just hanging out with girls?
Yep. When you can have anything you want in life, you always want more, and you want to push the limit. What happened with Maxwell and stuff, I'm glad it came up, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. But as long as there's demand and there's money, there's going to be people that fulfill it.
Yeah, that's the bottom line. That's something that, you say, and I agree with. And it was in a CNN interview with a cartel member, and he said, look, we respect Trump, but if people didn't want what we had, we wouldn't be selling it. And that's a sad truth. Nikki, thanks for your call. Shout out to everybody in Dyer, Indiana, listening on WLS. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdés.
Thanks for what you do. You have so many people. You ask the questions that if the viewer had a microphone, they would ask that question, and you seem to always ask it right at the right time. So God bless you, my friend.
America at Night with Rich Valdés.
All right, amigos, welcome back. We continue with your thoughts, calls, and opinions on everything that the radical left is doing to try and get President Trump, really to try and get you and me. Like he said, he's in the way. And, of course, everything that's going on in probably the biggest race in the country, in my opinion, the New York City mayor's race between Curtis Sliwa and Mamdani, with a third wheel named Andrew Cuomo trying to get in there every now and again. And I know people would disagree with me on that, saying, no, the third wheel is Sliwa. But I would say no, because Sliwa was literally in this a long time ago. And Cuomo just got here. He's a Johnny-come-lately, ran in a primary, lost, then said, I might be out, maybe I'll run as an independent, I'm not sure. It took a real long time to figure out if he was going to run, and then said, all right, I'm in as an independent. And then he goes and he bombs big time in the debate. Anyway, I want to get your thoughts on what's going on. Bill, Bethlehem, New York, WGDJ, go for it.
Yes, I'm calling from Bethlehem, New York. They say that those who forget history is doomed to repeat it, And, I used to send letters in color. I print my letters in color, and I sent a letter to Cardinal O'Connor, and he gave my letter to Pope John Paul II. And when John Paul II came to America, he quoted from my letters. He quoted from some of my letters. So now that he's a saint, oh my goodness.
How cool are you?
It's amazing.
That's very cool.
Oh, yes. I used to print a lot of letters all over this country to Supreme Court, and I always print my letters in color, color ink. I used a lot of it. And not only that, but if you look at history, like Moses and the Egyptians, the Boulder, Colorado, and the Egyptians, Woodrow Wilson, and Joe Biden.
I'm not a big fan of Woodrow Wilson's, but I get what you're saying. Now, Bill, I want to make sure we don't run out of time. Did you want to say something about the New York City mayor's race?
Yes. That guy he's running, he considered himself a Democrat socialist. And the leader of Russia, Joseph Stalin, said the same thing. It was just a quick way of sugarcoating the fact that he's a communist.
Yep.
And to me, if they vote for that guy, it's like ushering in communism, and especially the way the Democratic Party they lie so much. To me, the Democratic Party is Sodom and Gomorrah. And to me, you look at what Chuck Schumer want to do. He wants to give illegals. The word illegal doesn't mean anything to the Democratic Party, and he wants to give illegals all of the welfare and the right to vote.
Yeah, listen, you can't go around giving everything to everybody without citizenship, number one. We can't bankrupt America because of the bleeding heart liberal, right? I think that's a given. And you're right about the ties to Stalin, right? Stalin lied about a lot of things. And there was a revolt, I'm going to say. I'm going to use the word revolt because they like that word, within the Marxists, right? And in Europe, the Fabian's school of communism believed that we can take over without revolution. Today, some have redefined this as socialism. When you use a democratic process to implement communism, they call it socialism. But it's no different than Fabian's communism, right? Just taking over the establishment, the media, the government, labor unions, whatever and what have you, elected office, and then doing what you do, right? Bringing about the philosophy of Marx, right? It was Marx that wrote the Communist Manifesto. So whether you call yourself a socialist or you call yourself a communist or whatever you call yourself, I'm going to call you what I want to call you, right? I'm going to call you a Marxist, a communist, a collectivist, whatever I feel like, because that fits the bill on all of the above. So I'm with you, and I appreciate your the alarm that you have. I think the problem is you have a lot of people that are just unaware of the threat of Marxism. And the other side of it is you have a lot of people that are aware of Marxism and are willful participants. That's the part that I think we oftentimes forget, that there are people that have been actively recruited and trained for this purpose, like AOC, like Mamdani. They went to the universities. They've been indoctrinated. It wasn't like they went against their will. They wanted this, and now they've arrived, and they're here, and they have their own political party called the DSA, the Democrat Socialists of America, and they're trying to win a very big race here. And that's something that no real Democrat, no real Republican, no real conservative should allow to happen, not on anybody's watch. Bill, thanks for the call. I really appreciate it. Godspeed to you. WGDJ, New York in the building. And we continue. Let's go to Mike calling us from Washington, D.C. Mike, go ahead. You're on with Rich Valdés.
Yeah, the nature of my phone call is if you really do want to help Curtis Sliwa win the mayor's race, then why don't you do a radio 1 hour town hall meeting where one thing that conservative radio never do, allow its listening audience to talk to the political figure that you have on your show. And I think that would give a chance for the country to really ask Curtis about the policies and positions that they're interested in. In the interest of fairness, not only would I do one with him, I would do the other one with the one that you're against, and that is Mr. Mandali, in order to make that fair, to see if he can talk to the listening audience and explain on his policies. As an independent, I don't like neither party because both of them using brainwashing attempt. And when we coming up towards the midterm elections and this government shutdown, you messing around with people's lives. So I blame both political parties for that. You can't tell a person that's relying on a paycheck because you hate the federal government and you don't mind it to be shut down. That doesn't work in the real world. Because
I'm in the real world. I do it every day.
Right. But I'm saying, when you miss that paycheck, that affects your livelihood. And these elected officials forget that they work for the people. The people don't work for them. And to me, ain't no way on the lowest green earth will I vote for any politician that's receiving a paycheck right now and nobody else is. If I was a politician, I'm not going to take a paycheck. If my people are suffering, I'm going to suffer with them. That's what a real leader does.
Well, I think Congress has voted to stop taking paychecks to be in solidarity.
Yeah, but but if they're really doing it, fine. I don't believe them. But I mean, the public can research on which elected official is taking a paycheck and which of them isn't. See, the problem I have with the mainstream news media and radio sometimes is they got advertise these politicians as celebrities. And once you advertise them as celebrities, then you can't take them serious anymore because they're not going to take you serious anymore. So the American public, the American voter, has an obligation to vote for the elected officials that truly understands what you're going for. Because if you don't, they're going to keep doing what they're doing. But again, for this mayor's race, I think you should do a live radio town hall meeting.
Your wish is my command, Mike. I'm going to try and put that together. I have asked around to get Zohran Mamdani on the show. He has, I think he's done one interview with Fox, and that's the only other than like MSNBC type of media he's done. If he's willing to come on with me, I would love that. I will invite Curtis as well. They have a debate tomorrow night. I'll bring you some of that live if we can. If not, we'll bring you the clips of it if it ends before showtime. And after that, we can maybe give them a third. But I know that they wanted 3 debates and these types of forums, and the Democrats weren't on board. So if they agree to it, I'm happy to do it. And if I can pull it off, hopefully you'll be tuned in, Mike. I appreciate it. Godspeed to you. Friends, I'm coming right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdés.
All right, I got 25 seconds. Art in Chicago, Illinois, WLS. Go right ahead.
Hi, Rich. Thank you for your program. Thank you for taking my phone call. I appreciate the program.
You bet. Thank you.
Yeah, but you have a difference between Cuomo and Mamdani's. At least Cuomo is not anti-Israel or anti-Semite, as far as I know. And those countries are those people who who do evil against Jews. We damning not just Israel, we're damning themselves.
Right. Well, Art, I'll say this. He may not be an anti-Semite, but he is a Democrat. And I think we've seen how the Democrats treat the Jews historically. And it was no different when he was mayor of New York. There was a lot of things, including up to COVID. During COVID, the first people he cracked down on were religious Jews because of the way that they wanted to practice their faith. And the COVID closures, they didn't want to acknowledge them because they wanted their First Amendment rights. And Cuomo came harshly on the Jews. Brother, thanks for the call. Shout out to WLS. Amigos, we continue with your calls and more straight ahead. Don't go anywhere.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdés, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdés.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdés, Valdés with an S, at Rich Valdés on all of the social media. Welcome back for another hour of our program. We are live and national, 7 minutes past the top of the hour, and it's a blessing to be here with you. Here's the phone number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdés. And President Trump last week met with Javier Milei in the White House, in the Rose Garden, in the event of, in the throes of the peace deal. So while he was making a currency swap with Milei for $20 billion, literally, I guess, purchasing pesos, Argentine pesos, as an infusion into their economy because of the alliance that he has with President Milei. President Milei was here thanking the president for, his generosity and for his leadership on all of the world peace that he's been pursuing. And it's important to have allies in a region where we're having conflict with others, right? Neighbors to Argentina and other South American countries are Colombia and Venezuela. Now, Colombia and Venezuela are on the side where they have access to the Caribbean Sea, and that's where they do a lot of their drug trafficking. So the president has been clear in labeling Mexico a narco-terrorist state and trying to eradicate that problem, and now quickly moving to the Caribbean, the South American Caribbean, to make sure that they as well are on notice. And now more than half a dozen, I think they're up to 7 boats, have been blown up by the administration, by the army, and this is becoming an escalated situation. So we're going to spend some time talking about what's going on in Colombia, what's going on in Argentina, what's going on in Venezuela, and each of those presidents, right? Nicolás Maduro, Gustavo Petro, and of course Javier Milei, the only ally of those 3 that I mentioned. We're going to do some of that, but there's other things that are going on that I want to get to before I jump into that. And some of that, of course, is the president having I think a pretty good day in the news, if I do say so myself. And by that, I mean, not every Monday or not every day President Trump can say, oh, we got a win today. And many days it's the Democrats pushing back. And today's no different in that regard, right? With the Democrats blocking the opening of the government for an 11th time, with the spending bill being blocked by Democrats yet again. But on a good front, on a winning front, an appeals court ruled that President Trump can send National Guard troops into Portland. And I think this is important because it jibes, if you will, with the president's law and order message. And that's something that has to be achieved. Right? We have to stop the crazy left-wing violence. It has to end. And really, for the sake of people's trust in government, right? People need to know, hold on a second, how is it that we are the largest, best, most skilled military and law enforcement in the world, and we have this type of crazy radical violence going on? So I think for people to restore their hope in society, their hope in the institutions that we rely on in moments of danger, I think the president has to be able to do his job. So I'm glad that the court ruled the way they did. In other news, President Trump signed a rare earth minerals deal with the the Prime Minister of Australia. Rare earth deal is important. I can't even tell you how many of these he's already been signing all over the place, because this is yet another move to marginalize China. Listen to this.
In a bold move that could reshape the global supply chain, the United States and Australia have joined forces to challenge China's near monopoly on rare earth minerals, a critical resource powering everything from smartphones to military technology. But here's where it gets controversial. This partnership isn't just about securing materials. It's a strategic play to reduce dependence on China, which currently controls a staggering 70% of rare earth mining and 90% of processing.
So there you go. And again, another win for America with the rare earth deal. And to me, it makes sense. Gold is over $4,000 an ounce, right? It was just, I don't know, a few months ago where we hit 3,000 for the first time, and we thought we wouldn't see that. I remember at that time, somebody telling me, you sit back and relax because gold's going to hit 5,000 an ounce by next Christmas. I said, no way. No way, because, people won't buy jewelry the way they used to. They won't buy gold coins the way they used to, right? It's just going to be too expensive. I told my jeweler partners, and they were like, hey, I probably will get there, but it won't get there that quickly. Well, guess what? I checked on Friday. I did not check today, so I have no idea what it is today. Friday, over $4,200. That's amazing. That is amazing growth in the precious metals world. So with Trump going beyond precious metals into rare earth minerals and crypto, that is the future, and that is what is going to secure the U.S. dollar. That is how we are going to, I'm not going to say bring down because it's not up to be brought down, but that's how we're going to stop the growth of the, in my opinion, non-starter, the BRICS currency. So anyway, we'll get into that a little bit later, but that's a big deal there. There was some controversy with J.D. Vance, the vice president, and Governor Gavin Newsom going back and forth a little bit about a police car getting hit by shrapnel after there were several military, vehicles and aircraft that were conducting a practice type of thing, exercise. That's the word I'm looking for. Forgive me. And they used live ammunition, and that happened. Now, this wasn't a random thing like, oh, my gosh, cop was driving down the road. The cop had the street closed off because they knew that they were doing this, and this thing hit. Now, I'm sure that it was not intended to happen, but it happened, and nobody was hurt. The street was closed to make sure that nobody was hurt. And to me, it seems like, I don't know, it's kind of how it is, right? We train with live ammo. I think that's a normal thing. Most cops do. So why wouldn't we expect our military to do that? But yet Gavin Newsom had his panties in a twist over this. So anyway, I probably won't get much more into that because to me it seems like a conversation not really worth having. But after the bottom of the hour, I am going to get into a couple of interesting, funny, crazy one-off stories. And here's a good one, all right? Woman wins $100,000 Powerball using numbers provided by AI, ChatGPT. Now, that is a good story. I've shared with you in the past my brother Bobby, Robert Valdés, God rest his soul, United States Marine Corps. Before he passed away, obviously, he bought a $20 scratch-off in Long Island, and he won $3.5 million off of the one scratch-off. I think it was a $20 scratch-off. So people still winning money out there, and this lady winning $100,000 off of numbers from ChatGPT. Kudos to her. I'm glad she won, and maybe I should play so I could win. Wouldn't that be a story? I'd love that. Anyway, there's a lot more to come straight ahead. We're going to continue our discussion again on Nicolás Maduro and what's going on with Venezuela. President Trump blowing up another Venezuelan drug boat. They're pushing back, saying, no, that's not the case. And then now Colombia joining them, Gustavo Petro, the president of Colombia, is saying, hold up a second, bro. You just blew up fishermen. Now, that sounds like propaganda to me. But this is the game that they play. Plus, I've been wanting to talk about Javier Milei visiting the White House. And I wanted to do all of that. Why? All because I went to the store, and I shared a little bit about this the other day. And the kid running the register, tall kid, a couple of piercings, and a black hoodie. And the hoodie said, Che Guevara. And I said, Che Guevara? Why on earth does he wear this with such pride? So I wanted to see, is it just a thing? And it wasn't an image of Che. It was the words, Che Guevara. So I said, oh, are you a big fan of Che? And he said, yeah, I really am. And I said, oh, really? Why? And he said, well, I love his story. I love, the revolution that he went on as a young man, on his way to Cuba, not once he got to Cuba, but on his way to Cuba, helping people and, really starting the revolution against poverty. I think that's amazing work that he did. Not so much his political stuff in Cuba, but definitely his hard work to end poverty. I thought was a great thing when he was on the motorcycle. It's literally what he told me. And, I realized he was talking about this film, The Motorcycle Diaries. That's a pro-Che film about how great he is that, communists and communist sympathizers put out. But I realized, man, young teenagers that are working as checkout clerks at the bodega, at the grocery store, are falling for this line of crap. So I want to get into that with our guest straight ahead. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdés.
I want to listen to you, Rich, all the time.
America at Night with Rich Valdés.
More than half a dozen drug smuggling vessels in the Caribbean blown into oblivion.
They have faster boats. I mean, they're world-class speedboats, but they're not faster than missiles.
A threat to expand U.S. anti-drug military operations from sea to land.
President Trump has been very clear and consistent. He's prepared to use every element of American power to stop drugs from flooding into our country and to bring those responsible to justice.
And now a dramatic escalation, authorizing the CIA to engage in clandestine anti-government operations inside the South American country.
President Trump is going to do whatever it takes and use all the tools in the toolkits from the intelligence community, from the Department of War, and of course diplomatically to defend U.S. sovereignty.
What is going on with Venezuela?
What is going on with Venezuela? What is going on with Colombia? And in a minute, we're going to talk about Argentina as well. But I want to bring in our guest because I think she's got her finger on the pulse of what's going on. Her name, Eva Landau. She is the Latino Coalition Chair for Nevada for Turning Point Action. She's also a Global Human Rights League Chair as well. And she's former Director of Strategic Outreach for Hispanics for Trump in Nevada. Eva Landau, welcome.
How you doing, Rich? Good evening, good night, everybody there.
Yes, I love that. And we are live and national, so if you guys want to call, you know the number. But Eva, I want to talk to you about a few things because there's been a lot of developments with what's happening in Argentina with Milei last week. We'll wait on that for a minute. But I want to start with today because today President Trump made a very, very strong pronouncement to Gustavo Petro, saying that he is a drug dealer and that he is just as guilty as Nicolás Maduro, and we'll do what we got to do with the blowing up of the boats. Your thoughts?
Yeah, about Gustavo Petro is very good and people understand. Now, they have to understand that Gustavo Petro, I don't know how he's the president, but before he was part of the FARC. We cannot say he's a former terrorist. He is a terrorist because I believe when you're a terrorist, you never lose that title in your life. But he is a terrorist. He operates terrorist organizations named FARC. Everybody knows about the FARC, and sometimes we as a citizen in our country in South America, we are not very responsible, or we are very irresponsible in order to pick or choose this kind of people to being in the chair of the administration of a country. And now we see the consequences. This gentleman is still with the terrorist organization, working with the former president Evo Morales, Hugo Chavez, Nicolás Maduro, and somebody have to do the job. And thanks God we vote for President Trump, and now he's cleaning not only this house, our house, America, but South America too.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people would agree with that. Now, Eva, this is really an interesting thing because we have not seen this type of action from an American president, at least in a very long time. Back in the 80s, I think there was some action taken by President Reagan with, somewhat different guidelines and parameters. But specifically here, President Trump being very, very clear that, well, actually, I have a clip I want to play for you. Mr. Good, do we have that clip? of President Trump? Go ahead.
President Trump considering U.S. strikes on Venezuelan soil to combat drug cartels.
Well, I don't want to tell you exactly, but we are certainly looking at land now because we've got the sea very well under control.
The president also escalating U.S. operations against Venezuela's authoritarian leader, Nicolas Maduro. Trump confirming he's authorized covert CIA action in the country. But when asked if the agency has the authority to take out Maduro, Trump non-committal.
But I think Venezuela is feeling heat.
In a statement overnight, Venezuela accusing Trump of trying to legitimize a regime change operation to access the country's oil resources, saying they would bring up the matter at the UN Security Council today. It comes after the U.S. carried out its fifth deadly strike on an alleged drug boat off the coast of Venezuela. Trump posting this video on social media, saying 6 male narco-terrorists aboard the vessel were killed in the strike. The Trump administration's operation in the Caribbean first began in early September and has drawn fierce condemnation from Democratic lawmakers who say the strikes risk getting the U.S. into a full-fledged war.
So, what do you think? Do you think we end up in a war? He said Gustavo Petro is a drug dealer.
Yeah, Gustavo Petro is a drug dealer, and Maduro is not different. You know, when I can talk about Bolivia. I'm a Bolivian person. In Bolivia, they produce a lot of cocaine, and I know exactly how they move from Maiquetía, the airport from Venezuela, the cocaine. You know, they pick it up from Bolivia, they send to Maiquetía, and from Maiquetía come to America, to Europe, to Asia. And I'm really happy, Rich, that finally somebody's putting their eyes on South America in LATAM, because I got a lot of friends. They've been Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, and they've always been complaining about why United States doing nothing, why United States abandoned. But it's because China, because Iran, because and other things, and people was putting more attention, or administration, to the other part of the war. And now that finally, and I believe this is, of course, all the credit is President Trump, but we cannot forget Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio is a Hispanic guy. He's a Cuban guy. And I believe he said, you know what? Now it's time to clean to down there, because actually South America is too close to United States, and it's very dangerous. You know how many people, how many terrorists go to Venezuela and now to Colombia, thanks to Petro, and Bolivia and Cuba and Nicaragua. They get a passport like being citizens, terrorists pretending being citizens, and we got a lot of infiltrate people here in America. So I believe what President Trump is doing right now is exactly what he has to do. You know, is just pointing this guy who is sadly leading Venezuela. He's not a president. He's totally not a president. The president is somebody else who won the last election. And he only is trying to help us, you know. And if we don't see it that way, I don't know where we're living.
All right, Eva, stand by right there. We're going to come back, continue this discussion on South America as well as Argentina. We're coming right back with Eva Landau and me, Rich Valdés. Don't go anywhere.
The best guests, the best opinions. This is America at Night with Rich Valdés.
Eva Landau, we're working on getting some audio for you to react to. But in the meantime, I want to make sure that we understand everything you were saying. Amigos, we're on with Eva Landau. Eva Landau is the Latino Coalition chair for Nevada for Turning Point Action. She's also a chair for an organization called Global Human Rights League, and she was the director of strategic outreach for Hispanics for Trump in Nevada as well. Eva, tell me about this process. You mentioned, you're from Bolivia, and that in Bolivia they grow the cocaine and then they ship it out to Venezuela. And how does Colombia fit in? Are they competing with the growing or the refining of the cocaine, or are they part of a larger network with Bolivia?
This were like a franchise. It's not a competence, between
so they're not competing, they're working together.
No, they don't exactly. They work together. This is an organization, an international organization of crime, so they don't compete. They help each other. They help to finance the repression machinery they have. They finance with cocaine, with corruption, and terrorism. That's how they finance this. They've been financed with narco traffic Cuba too.
Mm-hmm. Right, and I think that's why this is such an important thing. Did you get the audio I sent yet? Because say it again. All right, so Eva, ultimately, when it comes to the deal with Javier Milei, because I think that's the one ally that we have in not the one, we have others, but I think this is a major ally. We had Brazil as an ally, but the president that was there, Bolsonaro, they put him in jail, right, and brought back the old president, took him out of jail to be able to bring him in. I mean, things in Latin America are pretty crazy. The United States just did this deal, $20 billion purchased of Argentinian pesos. What are your thoughts?
I believe this is the price we get when we were under freedom, when we have a free market, when we work with common sense, and when we want the best for our countries. This is what we're going to have. And this is what the other countries have to think. This is what Chile has to think now. This is what just Bolivia did. Change the wheel. Change to the right side. And we're going to be friends. Everybody's going to be friends. Everybody's going to make business. Where there is business, there is no wars. And that's what President Trump is recognizing, the job from Javier Milei. And this is what's happening. We're going to start eating America. I know we have extremely good meat here, but guess what? Meat is coming from Argentina. It's the most famous meat in the world. It's coming to United States. That's how people make business. That's how people show their appreciation, with business. And I believe, not with drugs, not with cocaine, not with fentanyl,
right.
With business, with legit business that make good to the people and not destroy the societies of countries.
Now, I want to, broaden the conversation. Secretary Rubio just did a trip to South America with a lot, right? A lot was on the table. He went and talked to a lot of people to talk about the use of Secot, the prison facility in El Salvador, as well as a number of other things. Give me your reaction to the Secretary's trip to Latin America. This is a pretty big international trip for the Secretary of State, in particular in that region.
Yeah, the message is what we was talking before. Like finally, somebody, is taking care of South America. South America was abandoned by United States for a long time. Not because they want it. It's because probably they believe something else was more important. And as I told you, I've been speaking with a diplomatic person, always complaining about why United States not doing nothing. Why United States, why they abandon us? Well, they abandon us. China is putting their hands in our countries, in Bolivia, in Peru, in Chile, in Argentina. And, because we was like an orphan from United States. We don't, and a lot of people over there, they say, oh, we don't want intermission or this or that. But the reality is that the people really need the United States to just leave the sample. For example, in Ecuador, Marco Rubio being in Ecuador, what do you think is the message for the people who want to try to kill Noboa, as they did to Villavicencio? Fernando Villavicencio was a candidate for Ecuador before Noboa. They killed him, just like a Charlie here. So the message is, hey, we're watching what you're doing. We're close. You better watch out for what you're doing. because then you're gonna lose or you're gonna miss all the privileges that you can have from the United States, like is the market, the tariff, and all the good things that can happen when you have.
In particular, you're speaking of Ecuador. Ecuador has a lot of security deals, military deals. They got $20 million in aid and a bunch of drones that they use for their navy. So yeah, I agree. It's important to.
And what that means,
do business with the U.S.
Infrastructure for that. And that means a lot of people working, a lot of people going back to work, because that's what they bring. Some people say, oh, they're bringing factories or this or that. But that means our people going to start working there. If they have a job over there, they will not immigrate. They will not try to come crossing illegally the border.
Let me ask you this. With respect to this President Trump saying he's authorized the CIA to conduct, stuff on the ground and whatnot. The immediate reaction to that was the U.S. is meddling in regime change and this and that, which, again, I don't think is a bad idea. It's what you were saying when you talk to your Hispanic friends and they say the U.S. has abandoned us. I think many people in Venezuela would hope and pray that the U.S. would come and do a regime change because who wants to deal with Nicolás Maduro? I have many friends that are Cuban. And they have been waiting for a moment like this for a long time. Many of them were, unsure of what President Trump would do in this term. One of them was very against Trump, and he told me, he said, I will respect Trump the day that he takes out a real dictator like Diaz-Canel or not Chavez. I always forget his name, Nicolás Maduro. And here we are at the precipice of potentially seeing that happen. And I think, what are your thoughts? What does your gut tell you? Where do we go from here?
This is from South America. This is like a miracle, Rich. This is like a miracle. We've been begging for this and seeing that nobody wants to do nothing. This is a miracle for South America. I want to come back to South America. I love America. And I'm gonna live. I can give my life for this country who gave me freedom. I escaped from a regime. People don't want to keep living from their countries for persecution or for economic reasons. We love our countries. And we want to come back. But we cannot come back where they pretend you that you got to go to jail, and that is my case. Why do I have to go to jail? Because I denounced narco traffic over there? I'm paying the consequence to open my mouth.
No, totally. Now, do you think that if we are able to arrest Maduro because he's wanted in the United States and there's an arrest warrant for him in New York, if he's arrested and indicted and jailed, that will bring down the regime in Venezuela. Do you think that similar will happen in Cuba, where the people will just take back their government?
What happened is if Maduro is out, there is no more money going. Because even if Venezuela is broken, they still sending money to the regime in Cuba.
Right, that's my thought.
So putting down to Maduro, then Pollo Carvajal is in New York, I believe, in a jail. He's speaking a lot. He's telling a lot to our authorities here in America. They already know exactly what Maduro been doing, and this is our last chance. If we don't do this in the next 3 years, Rich, we don't know what can happen. We can be right now in the government, enjoying the freedom that President Trump is giving to us, but we don't never know what can happen in 3 years. It's imperative that they get Maduro for the freedom of Venezuela, for the freedom of Cuba, Nicaragua. Bolivia, well, they already changed the page actually yesterday. But it's very I pray every day. These people been killing a lot of people because they say, oh, you have to fight you have an organization of human rights, you have to advocate for life, you have to advocate for freedom. But these people really deserve to be free? No, because they've been violating human rights every single day for innocent people. They don't deserve nothing. Once you broke the rights from somebody else, you lose your own rights.
Eva, let me ask you a question, and we'll finish with this with about 1 minute, if you can. Why do you love America so much?
When I have ordered to go to jail, this country opened the doors to me. I came legally to this country. I went in front of official immigration authority, and she said something to me. This is grand. After I gave all the 180 debates I bring with me, 310 of death and everything, but you gotta promise something to me, she said. You're gonna keep fighting, and this is exactly the words she said. She take out her budget from the immigration department, and she said, "You're gonna keep fighting. You're gonna keep speaking. You're gonna keep speaking." And this is exactly what she said. She is Puerto Rican. She said, "Keep speaking against these hijos de puta." That's exactly what she said. Keep speaking against Maduro, Chavez, Evo. Because Maduro was not in the power in that time. She said Fidel Castro and Chavez. They both was alive in that time.
Wow.
And guess what? I promised her I would do it. And I never stop. And I will not
Good
stop.
for you. I love it. Eva, quickly, tell everybody how they can follow you and how they can find you online.
I'm in Eva Sara Landau in every single platform you find. Eva Sara Landau, EVASARALANDAU. I'm going to be everywhere, and yes, open to chat with every person.
Well, I'll have you back for sure. I appreciate the conversation. Eva Sara Landau. God bless you. Amigos, we're coming right back.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdés.
Rich, I'm honored, man, to be able to have a voice on your platform. There's probably 140,000 federal inmates that listen to you at night.
America at Night with Rich Valdés.
Talk about a captive audience, 140,000 inmates listening to the program. Thank you. That's Joe Exotic, the Tiger King. Shout out to him. And I want to go to your calls again on a bunch of things tonight. Let's go to Eduardo calling us from Tampa, Florida. Open Phone America. Go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, Rich. Thank you for having Eva on the phone. It was great to hear her conversation. Yeah, this Petro guy is a loudmouth. He was arrested in 1985 because he was in a April 19 movement. It's some fringe group, believes in climate change, so the usual leftists. This is the time we got the troops there. We got 10,000 troops there. This is the time we don't have to tear up the country, but this is the time to grab Mr. Maduro, and hopefully Mr. Gonzalez and Machado will be better for the country of Venezuela, because it's not going to be done by a future Democrat president. That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point she was making. She said, we don't know where we'll be in 3 years. This is the chance. We got to strike while the iron's hot. And I agree with that. I think, and not for the sake of regime change, right, which is a taboo word in our vernacular, but I think for the sake of national security in America. These guys are drug traffickers. Shut down their drug practice as much as you can, and keep it moving. Now, I think that's a really good point. And the other thing was, what do you think about with the conversation with Gustavo Petro?
Well, it's pretty ridiculous. Remember, he was in Central Park. Remember when everybody was in the United Nations with a bullhorn yelling out to, for the U.S. military to have some kind of mutiny against President Trump? It was pretty ridiculous. So he let the caravans go through his country. Remember, the Darien Pass is near Colombia. So he's at fault for that.
Right. Yeah. Well, he wants to see the United States destabilized. He really is a left-wing radical, quite a Marxist, always has been, doesn't really hide it either. And I don't think he was elected because of that. I think he was elected in spite of it because of a push against Bolsonaro. I mean, against the previous guy. And same thing happened in Brazil. There was like a big left-wing movement that kind of took over South America, and thankfully it did not get to Argentina, and we were able to get
Right.
Malay out of that deal. But
Freaking Malay,
Eduardo,
yeah.
Thank you for the call. I
Thank you,
appreciate
Rich.
it, brother. Yeah, my pleasure. And I'm gonna. Well, I don't want to cut anybody short, so we're gonna go to. I'm gonna take a pause right here. We'll come right back and go to Joe, who's calling us from Oxford, Missouri, if that's right. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdés.
All right, amigos, we continue with your thoughts, calls, and opinions. Open Phone America. Let's go to Joe calling us from Oxford, Mississippi. Excuse me. WTNM. Go right ahead, sir.
Hey, thanks, Rich. I've got through with you once before, and I want to make this clear. I'm not.
Welcome back.
I voted for Donald Trump 3 times. I'm as far to the right as anybody you're going to hear from, but I also was a political scientist, and I warned about this when we started talking about the New York race. What the sellout of Curtis Sliwa by the Republican establishment is a sad but a very predictable event, and I'm afraid the dismantling of the Republican Party as a conservative public policy vehicle. Parties are only good if they can make and change and keep public policy, and this is just another sad event. I hope there'll be a reversal in it. But what I've seen since in this term of Donald Trump's has just been a confirmation of this.
Yeah, it is sad to see what's happening in New York City. And again, I'm always willing to have the conversation with whomever, right? You know, if you have a different opinion than me, that's fine. Matter of fact, I saw some people on TV today, and I was texting them while they were on TV, which I hate when they do to me, but I did it to them. And my point was, listen, you've got to let the people decide. Just because Cuomo decided to get into this race at the 11th hour after he was beaten by Mamdani has nothing to do with Curtis Sliwa, and Curtis Sliwa shouldn't have to pay the price and then hang this imaginary guilt trip over Sliwa saying the future of the city is on you. If Mamdani wins, it's because you wouldn't get out. That's BS. Curtis was in this well before Cuomo was. So I think this is, a nonsensical argument. But the fact that people on our side are being, I'm going to use the word unprincipled here, or falling for the demagoguery is really shocking to me.
Why hasn't President Trump endorsed Curtis Sliwa?
Well, President Trump has made it clear that he doesn't like Sliwa. And quite frankly, Sliwa also, they are both New Yorkers that haven't gotten along for a very long time. And I think that Curtis is on the record saying he didn't want Trump's endorsement because he felt that there was an anti-Trump sentiment in New York, and that which Zoran Mamdani was capitalizing on. And that's why in the debates, Mamdani seemed to be debating Trump, and Sliwa was debating both of those guys and the moderators. So I understood Sliwa's, unwillingness to get the endorsement. It's not like the president is incredibly popular in New York City, but I do think he is popular. Ultimately, I think this boils down to you can be in a race, you can stay out of a race, but what you shouldn't do is try and use influence to get people out of a race. That it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me if you're trying to uphold liberty. Joe in Oxford, Mississippi, thanks for the call. WTNM in the building. Hasta la próxima. God bless you, and good night, America.